Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. My in-laws are finally gone, thankfully, so now I will be posting videos as consistently as I normally do. Whoops, I already hit my mic. We are 13 seconds into the video. Fantastic. Yesterday, after Francis Ngannou made his announcement, the UFC decided they were going to overshadow it, which is just good business practices on their part. We are going to go over some of those announcements. I'm going to give a few of them their own separate videos, and then I will probably lump a few of the matchups that they announced together in one video. But I want to start with one of the biggest, or quite possibly the biggest, not my favorite, but an incredible matchup that they made in Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje for the BMF belt at UFC 291. Okay, this is a fantastic matchup. The UFC just continues to deliver. Now, they have had some pretty poor fight nights and things like that in between these fantastic pay-per-view events, but this entire card, UFC 291, which is going to get a couple videos from me, is incredible, and this main event is perfect. I'm so glad that they made this matchup. This is a rematch that actually, unironically, almost every MMA fan is probably like insanely excited about. I'm going to be honest, I don't like the concept of the BMF belt. I thought it was kind of goofy when they did it the first time, but I was hoping it would be a one-off. I get that Jorge Masvidal has now retired, but he's also lost like what 3 or 4 times in between winning that BMF belt, so it's a little strange that just now they're gonna do it again. But I guess maybe they just needed something to justify making this a main event of a pay-per-view. I think they could have done it without. I would actually like it if the UFC would be a little more lenient on the whole like needing a title fight for a main event, because I think that this main event for a pay-per-view might be better than almost any one that we've had thus far in terms of how incredible the fight will undoubtedly be, regardless of how long it lasts. Obviously, as I said just previously, this is a rematch. Their first fight was incredible, one of the best fights of all time. Dustin Poirier won TKO, if I'm not mistaken, in the 4th round, after taking a massive beating to his legs. If we're going to go over this matchup a little bit, I think that both of these men, well, I think Justin Gaethje's made massive improvements in his striking, especially in terms of his defense. We saw in the Rafael Fiziev fight that he has gotten a lot better at rolling with shots. Like, it was hard for Fiziev to hit him cleanly. And while Michael Chandler managed to a couple times, once Gaethje was hurt, he wasn't able to really land another clean follow-up shot that sealed the deal. And I think that is largely due to an improvement made in his defense. Like, he used to be known as his chin was essentially his defense, whereas now it might look like it's his chin that's carrying him on, but it is a lot of very sneaky defensive tactics. Like I said, rolling with shots, things like this, bouncing off the shoulder, he'll turn real well. These are all improvements that he's made, whereas before, when he first entered the UFC in his fights, like with Michael Johnson, Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier, guys like this, he was getting hit clean a lot more, and I think he's made serious improvements since their since they fought last, obviously. Dustin Poirier, on the other hand, though, has made a ton of improvements also. And even if Justin Gaethje has actually made more improvements overall than Dustin Poirier, I don't know that it'll be enough to close the gap. Okay, the only thing, though, is that I think Dustin Poirier performs way better against southpaw opponents than he does orthodox opponents. Justin Gaethje, obviously, typically, for the most part, is in an orthodox position. Dustin Poirier is much better at attacking his opponent's legs when he is fighting a southpaw, because that lead leg is there for his back leg, whereas when he's fighting an orthodox opponent, he typically he doesn't like to throw inside leg kicks as much. So what he'll do is he'll do a lead leg kick, which in my opinion sometimes can come off as a little lazy. He'll do a little hop and a skip, right? Because typically on a lead leg kick, you want to get a bit of a switch or a step in there to get a little bit more power. Sometimes he throws it out a little lazily, which I think leaves him open for counters sometimes. So he's really going to have to look out for the leg kicks of Justin Gaethje. I think this is going to be something that he has to address like immediately almost, because while Justin Gaethje actually hasn't been throwing as many leg kicks as he used to when he first got into the UFC, that was like primarily what he was known for. Even in a position where they'd be like tight in the clinch, he would still manage to turn his hips over and land a good leg kick. He hasn't been doing that as much as of late, but I think that because this is an opponent that he's familiar with, this is an opponent that he knows he had serious success with in the leg kick department, I would imagine that's going to be something he goes to right away to try to sort of, have Poirier's legs damaged so that later on in the fight it can look a little differently for him. I think in the boxing range, however, as I said, while Gaethje has gotten a lot better defensively, sometimes he is still a little wild with his shots. They're a little looping. Sometimes he'll have his eyes like not even looking at his opponent. I think Dustin Poirier's boxing is much better, and even though Justin Gaethje has made improvements as his defense, I still think Dustin Poirier is actually better defensively, at least in the boxing range. Now, he showed a bit of susceptibility to body shots, as we saw in the Charles Oliveira fight, and also in the Michael Chandler fight. When Chandler had him hurt in that first round, his defense, you can see there's a bit of a hole in there. He's very good at covering up shoulder, and he'll do a high elbow guard, so he's really good at blocking the sides and stuff like that, but he's open to the middle, and especially the body. And if you go back and watch that fight, if you're not screaming fucking uppercut by Michael Chandler, then I don't know what to tell you. It's a clear gaping hole. Now, to be fair, that was after he had been hurt, and typically Dustin Poirier doesn't allow somebody to get that close to him, have him backed up against the fence in that way, unless he was hurt. And he also ended up firing back and hurting Chandler at the end of the round himself. So overall, I think Poirier's boxing offensively and defensively are a little bit better. I think just because of the stances that they will be in, Justin Gaethje will have the edge in terms of kicking. Now, he doesn't throw a lot of body kicks or head kicks or anything like that, but the legs are what he had success against Dustin in the first time, and Justin Gaethje has never really thrown a whole lot of body kicks or head kicks. It's not something that he really needs to implement in his game. He's very effective without that, and because he has knockout power in his hands, it's not a necessity, right? If he was somebody who couldn't put guys away with his hands, I would say you should probably invest in head kicks, but since he doesn't really need to do that, right? So he can set shit up with the leg kicks and then hurt you with his hands, which he absolutely has powerful punches. So does Dustin Poirier, to be fair. This is going to be a fucking phenomenal fight, dude. I can't believe that they made this fight. I would imagine the winner of this fight, I would imagine this has some title implications. I guess they're not doing an interim belt because we have the next contender already in line, right? Like the winner of Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush will most likely face Islam Makhachev in October when they go to Abu Dhabi. So we already know at least one of two who the next opponent for the champion will be, and we also know when his return date is. So it's not like we're on, you know what I mean? We're not in the dark of when Islam Makhachev will come back. But I would imagine whoever wins this fight, since it'll be a little bit closer to that October date than Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira, it almost works out perfectly, because if, let's say, Islam Makhachev fights in October, and then he wants to fight around the same time he did Alexander Volkanovski, maybe January, February, that's 6 months to take off for a high-paid Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. I'm sure they would be totally fine with that, whoever comes out on top. If I'm going to make an early prediction, at this point, I think I have to go with Dustin Poirier, just because I haven't seen a decline from him, right? And he only loses to a certain type of guys. Justin Gaethje doesn't have the grappling abilities to, you know what I mean? Like, that's typically who Dustin Poirier loses to, especially in his lightweight career. I understand that he got knocked out by Conor and whatever else, but since this lightweight Dustin Poirier that's been on the tear that Dustin Poirier has been on, it's been Khabib and Charles Oliveira, and both of those were rear naked chokes. And to be fair, Charles Oliveira did, as I was talking about, knees to the body in the clinch multiple times over, which probably made it harder for Dustin to get up or to defensively grapple against Charles Oliveira. But Charles Oliveira is a phenomenal grappler, and as is Khabib Nurmagomedov, and they both also strangled Justin Gaethje. So, and they also both strangled Justin Gaethje faster than it took them to strangle Dustin Poirier. So I know that MMA math doesn't necessarily work like that, but I would argue Justin Gaethje, you can talk about his wrestling all the fuck you want, he doesn't use it. His takedown defense is not that great. We haven't really seen anybody try to take him down aside from Khabib, and it's just not a factor. I don't think that, and on the other hand, though, we saw in the Michael Chandler fight, where Dustin was dominated for round 2, and I don't mean dominated in the sense that he like got the fucking shit beat out of him, but I mean in the sense that he wasn't able to mount any of his own offense because Michael Chandler got the fight to the ground and Dustin was unable to get back up. That first round was pretty close in terms of the striking, but then that third round, Dustin Poirier ended up sinking in a choke. So even a guy who is a pretty high-level wrestler in Michael Chandler, who not just is a high-level wrestler, but actually we've seen him utilize it, and maybe a little bit more pre-UFC, but it's definitely been a main staple of his game, whereas with Justin Gaethje it has not. And he was still able to out-grapple and submit Michael Chandler, which is a pretty good feather in the cap of Dustin Poirier. He has very underrated jiu-jitsu in my opinion. I just think that Charles Oliveira and Khabib Nurmagomedov are both on a completely different level. And to be fair, he was able to stay safe a lot longer than guys like Justin Gaethje were when the fight hit the ground. Prediction, I'm going to go with Dustin Poirier. I don't know if I already said that, but I'm going to reiterate it, okay? I think that the improvements made by Justin Gaethje might not necessarily be enough, and I think that because Dustin Poirier, we haven't really seen him decline yet, he still appears to be at the top of his game, and I think that he's made improvements too since the last time they fought, and actually significantly so. And I think that he's also gotten a lot better at, and I know once he hurts a guy, it's kind of like blood in the water, and he goes fucking balls to the wall crazy, hooks on spam, essentially. I mean, he'll throw a couple jabs in there to set up his big power shots, whether it's an uppercut or a hook, but he seems much, and I think this probably comes with age and maturity a little bit, and the fact that his mental seems to be lining up with his physical prime relatively well, whereas some guys, their mental will be much later than their physical prime, and it's unfortunate because they have a better understanding of the game in total. They have a better understanding of whatever technique and all this shit, but their body can't keep up with that. I think that Dustin Poirier's mental prime and physical prime have aligned pretty well, and I think that he's much better at following game plans now, and I would imagine that they will come up with a game plan. They will come up with a way to address the leg kicks of Justin Gaethje. They will come up with things that they think they will be able to be successful in, despite him not being a southpaw, and that's where Dustin tends to have the most success. I guess training for those Conor fights really made him a fucking absolute savage when it comes to southpaws. But yeah, man, this is a great fucking fight, dude. I am unbelievably excited. I'm also both happy, but these fucking guys, man, fuck the belts. Both of these gentlemen absolutely deserve like main event pay-per-view spots. I hope that they both have pay-per-view percentages put down on their contracts, because that would be a shame if they didn't. I think that they both deserve it. They are both needle movers. They are both fan favorites. Maybe you don't like one of the guys personally, like I tend to not like Justin Gaethje all that much, but if we're talking about fucking who do you want to watch fight the most, how could these guys not be in like your top 5? They fucking put on crazy fights every single time. Every fucking time, dude. Like, I can't overstate that. It's literally every when was the last time either of these gentlemen had a boring fight? Like, honestly. And getting them together is just going to be fucking dynamite. They are both also tough as fucking all get out, dude. These are two guys that are very hard to put away, as I said, especially in Dustin's later career at lightweight. And, you know, most of when these guys are getting finished, it's not like they're getting flatline KO'd. They're getting subbed. They're getting out-grappled. They're getting subbed. When it comes to the feet, though, they are both extremely hard to put away. They both have very good chins. They both also have an ability to survive. Like, Justin Gaethje got fucking hurt in that Michael Chandler fight, as did Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier got hurt in the Conor McGregor fight. He gets hurt, honestly, quite frequently. Never enough to drop him and have him stumbling all over the place, but he'll get his fucking bell rung, and he keeps coming. He's very good. He's got a way better poker face now too. I noticed that in the second Conor fight, where he had gotten cracked with a pretty good kind of like a uppercut jab type shit. The punch that Conor throws, where he kind of lunges forward and goes like that. And Dustin was able to fool Conor into making. Conor didn't realize that he had hurt Dustin. Okay, that's a better way to say it. The poker face was there. Dustin was able to stay relatively safe until he felt good enough to engage in offense again, and that was that. So I'm gonna go with Dustin Poirier, man. Either a late round TKO, like pretty similar to the same or to the first time they fought, my bad, maybe 4th or 5th round type thing. If not, I could see this being an absolute fucking war and ending in a decision, maybe 3 rounds to 2, 4 rounds to 1 for Dustin Poirier, something like that. I just think that Justin Gaethje hasn't made enough improvements to catch up to Dustin Poirier, who since last time they fought has also been continuing to improve. So these are my thoughts and initial reaction to this fucking incredible fight being made. Can't wait for it, and I'm going to get on to some of the next fights on this card that are also fucking incredible. So I will see you at the next video. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Bye-bye.